Hello, hope you guys doing fantastic today. So as you saw a few seconds ago, we managed to tank Arbiter, the Meteors from the Arbiter. Not from the Uber Arbiter, but this is mostly because I was unlucky. I tried it a few times and every time something bad would happen. For example, my curse would run out or I would get a crit. Which I'm going to tell you guys in a second how to prevent something like that and basically tank him every single time. The other reason is I didn't want to change the build too much, right? Because I did prepare some tech in order to tank these meteors to reduce them to how much damage you saw we were taking. Sometimes 1,000 like or 1,100 damage from a single meteor, which is absolutely insane. But in this video, I'm going to show you guys what I did to achieve this level of damage reduction. Because in the first fight we were going again from like 80,000 damage from a meteor to like 1,000 damage taken. So I mean that's just absolutely insane. I will show you guys what I did to receive to like achieve like absolutely insane amount of of armor applied to fire damage taken, and yeah, basically I'm gonna show you how to get this level of mitigation if you want to have a little bit of fun and tank the Arbiter, these big donuts or flame waves for yourself. Alright, so let's jump into it. So basically, compared to my gear, I made multiple changes. That being said, you could still push this gear further if you want, if you wanted to. But I guess I'm just gonna talk about it at the end. So first change that I did is I crafted this armor myself specifically to deal with Arbiter. And basically what I did is I tried to get as much armor as humanly possible. Physical damage from hits taken as chaos damage is not needed because Arbiter doesn't do any damage whatsoever. The only ability that does damage is obviously these one-shots, right? Everything else basically doesn't even move my HP anymore. So what I did is basically I tried to get as much armor as humanly possible. Additionally, and this is the important stat, and this is partially the reason why I, failed to tank all the Uber Arbiter meteors, like all 8 or all 10 of them, is because I didn't have enough crit damage reduction. Arbiter actually will drop crits relatively often on you, and crit damage reduction, and probably you should probably have like about 90% to be safe. Even 100% is going to be fine, but the more the better, right? But this is important because for the one-shot mechanics, Arbiter's crit chance is actually pretty high. From my experience, I would say that he is about, I don't know, 15 to 20% chance to crit. And maybe you saw that from the videos, but sometimes my HP would basically, drop by 1,000, maybe 1,200, and sometimes it would drop like 2,500 or something like that. This is basically when it crits. And obviously, when it comes to taking extra damage as an armor character, this is especially deadly because our armor is not going to work as well when the damage increases. So basically, to avoid that in the future, if you really wanted to succeed tanking Uber Arbiter every single time, I would say that reducing crit damage taken completely by 100% is the key to success. That being said, armor, basically to increase the armor, and at the same time, every time you increase armor, your defenses against fire damage increase at the same time. So basically, that's what it is. That's number one. Number two, +6 maximum fire resistance corruption, Rise of the Phoenix. Additionally, this shield provides a very nice amount of regeneration. So basically what I did is I put it on weapon set number 1 instead of weapon because I don't really need a weapon on an Arbiter fight because I was doing my damage from the weapon set number 2, right? So it wasn't really necessary. So just to get the fire resistance up to 90, which is absolutely mandatory, I just bought myself a Rise of the Phoenix and it was fine, right? Then, additional thing, the belt, Gore Girdle. Basically what this belt does is gives you double armor versus elemental damage. The penalty is that you can only reduce the physical damage taken by 50% at max, not including conversions, right? But here's the thing. Arbiter still does negative damage from his physical damage. It completely doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is fire damage taken. And this belt basically gives you double armor against fire damage and cold and lightning at the same time, right? So additionally, it's very easy to get +3 maximum fire resistance, which once again helps out getting to 90%. So with certain setups, I managed to get about 1.5 million armor versus fire. I had one setup that was 1.8, but I had to respec out of some of the stuff that I did, and it turned out to be like 1.5 at the end of the day. But these are the numbers that they can achieve basically if you really try to get into armor stacking. You get to the point where even the meteors from Arbiter that hit 3 times or 4 times harder than anything else in the game, even these guys start not hitting that hard anymore. So this is part of the reason why. Now, additionally, we were using. I like to call these boots Chabon because every time you use dodge roll instead of dodge rolling, you actually like jump like you're on the trampoline. It has a cooldown, but it's actually a very good range. So this is the additional thing that these boots do. But the most important thing, what they do is gain deflection rating equal to 20% of your armor. With perfect corruption, you can get up to 24%. And for our build, this is actually absolutely insane because we get so much armor. Keep in mind that these numbers are without the armor buffs. So this is without scavenge plating, and this is without 90% from. I always forget the name of this charge regulation. I think they changed the name this patch. That's why. And we have, at least according to the stats over here, we have estimated chance to deflect 68% without the armor buffs, which will automatically increase this number as well. Here's the thing. Why this is really reliable is because obviously I did some changes to the passive tree before, and one of the things I did is I spec'd into glancing blows. This basically, the negative here, the con, is completely irrelevant because we do not have any chance to evade. So basically we get deflect for free. And with my buffs up, I don't have a screenshot, but I do remember what number I had there. With buffs up and with glancing blows, I had 95% estimated chance to deflect. Now, the deflection rating says that the exact chance to deflect also depends on attacker's accuracy. And I guess that since I have, what do you call it? I have maim on my armor breaker, which decreases attackers' excuse me, it doesn't decrease their accuracy, it decreases their evasion rating. So never mind. That being said, I have to say that with 95%, this is a very, very, very reliable way of reducing damage. And as I was testing and I was fighting Arbiter, like, decent amount of times, I don't think that this failed a single time, this deflection buff, like the damage reduction. Additionally, I had allocated trained deflection, which is prevent 6% of damage from deflected hits. So basically, we had 46% damage reduction every time we deflected instead of 40%. So that is a very, very powerful defensive layer, and I still wouldn't necessarily recommend that for hardcore because 95% is not 100%, and this one time you're going to need this damage reduction for some reason, and it's not going to go off and boom, you're dead. But for fun testing, something like Arbiter in softcore, then it's definitely very reliable because 95% is a lot. So excuse me. So that was another part of why we skyrocketed our damage reduction so high. Next up, we had I bought 2 grips of the Kulamac, and this one wasn't perfect. This one was. And what I did here basically is I found one with increased maximum life, armor applies to elemental damage, and reduced critical damage bonus for enemies. Both of them should be with this thing, because you really, as I mentioned before, you really want to get to as close to 100% reduced critical damage bonus if you want to be able to tank Arbiter very consistently, because yeah, it's just he crits quite often. And there is a big difference in damage taken when he crits, and you're gonna see a big difference, right? If you don't have like a lot of reduced crit damage bonus. So something to keep in mind, right? Other than that, the only purpose of these rings is basically to boost fire damage. Armor applies to fire damage as high as possible. Next up, I had Megalomaniac. This is nothing special, just a little bit of extra regeneration and curse duration and curse magnitude. The curse duration here is actually really important. We're gonna get to that in a second. Against the darkness with maximum fire resistance. In the end, I actually didn't use this at all because I decided to. I had 2 runes in there, one for +2 maximum fire resistance and one for 60% armor applies to fire damage. Of course, if there are different ways of getting maximum fire resistances instead of, what I did, it would be absolutely fantastic to get 2 runes that give you armor applies to fire damage, because there's a huge difference, right? A single rune is 60%, which is insane because of increased effect of secret items mod. But yeah, at the end of the day, I didn't even use it. I decided to use this, right? The +2 fire from gloves and use my regular jewels. So that's what I did. Another important thing that gave us big damage reduction is Undying Hate with Amanamu, because this changes the keystone in proximity to Sacrifice of Flesh. And this is basically like a mini Progenesis from PoE 1. Basically what it does is it prevents the immediate damage, it prevents the immediate life loss, but this life that you would lose from the hit instead is lost over time at increased amount. So you're gonna take additional damage over time, but the result is the hit that you're gonna receive immediately is going to be 20% lower. This does not work. This does not scale with armor. So this works basically after armor. Like there's pretty much nothing that works before armor, right? So armor is not going to. This is not going to give you additional damage reduction from armor, basically. But still, if you're trying to tank hit as big as Meteor from Arbiter, which is the biggest hit in the game, then you're going to try to get damage reduction anywhere you can. And since this build has a very high life regeneration, this second part is not big of a problem. So basically, this is what I used for additional damage reduction. And then last, I do believe it's last but not least, I used Enfeeble. Now you might say, oh Car, you were cheating, like you're using a curse. Normally you don't use that. Yes, but at the same time, I don't see like any problem. Like if I really wanted to, I could use this on this build, right? I would just respec some strength into intelligence, because I do already have decent amount of intelligence. And that's it. Like I wouldn't really have problem using that. And this is the second reason why I didn't even try to attempt tanking all Uber Arbiter's Meteors, because I would need to do additional changes. Number one, as I mentioned before, getting to 100% critical damage bonus reduction, just to not take any extra damage from crits. Number two, I would need to get more duration on this skill. Like one time I failed doing the flame waves from Uber Arbiter is that I tanked like 6 of them, and then Feeble just wear off, and I took additional damage, and that's what killed me. If Enfeeble worked for the entire duration, and I had crit damage reduction at the same time, I would be able to tank them every single time, always. So basically what you would need to do is either change your jewels to the ones that give you additional duration of your curses, or like for example get into this cluster over here, this is increased skill effect duration, something like that, right? If this curse lasted for about 20 something seconds, then that would be enough every single time. Like my curse lasted for 15 seconds, and it's just like wore off every single time, like close to the end. So there's like 2 or 3 meteors remaining, and then the curse would fall off, and I would just get killed. Partially, probably 1 or 2 of those hits were crits too, so that's something. But yeah, if you had these 2 things combined at the same time, the crit damage reduction, which is very easy to get, and additional duration of your curses, then you would be able to do this with my gear, with this level of gear. You would be able to do this every single time. And then of course we had some changes when it comes to the passive tree. Like for example, I invested into this cluster over here. I invested into the regeneration over here and regeneration over here, right? This one. As I mentioned before, got glancing blows. I got the ignite immunity. These are basically the things that I did. I tried to change as little as possible. I changed basically nothing on my weapon set number 2, so my damage was still there. I was still hitting for like 6 million, so with a single shield wall. So it's not like the character that I did was not functional, right? It's just like I changed my weapon set number 1, so I basically lost a lot of area. To get additional tankiness. But yeah, I tried to. The reason why I didn't attempt Uber Arbiter anymore is because I didn't want to change too much, right? I wanted the character to basically like stay as close to like, you know, it's still, of course, it was still an armor stacker, but I wanted it to stay as close to to the previous character as possible. So basically that's why I didn't attempt anymore. But I am 100% sure that I could tank all meteors with some small further modifications. So basically that's it. You could push this character further. I have really good gear, but it's not to say that you couldn't get better gear. For example, if I really wanted to, I could keep on crafting gloves like these, just without +2 to all melee skills. Instead, I would like settle for strength or something, because I don't really need that +2 level of all melee skills against Arbiter, right? And then I could just keep on corrupting them. And eventually I would get the one with 3 seconds, and that would be huge. Because in one of my setups, when I had almost 2 million armor applied to fire damage taken, like a single rune for 60% extra would give me, like, I don't know, additional 150,000 armor applied to fire damage taken, elemental. So it's absolutely insane, right? How like a small thing like this could change, like, you know, it's insane numbers. But you know, it's the same with other pieces of gear. You could keep on pushing if you really wanted to. You could have, for example, have corruptions on every single one of these pieces of gear if you wanted to keep on going. The baseline crafting gear in this league is so OP that getting gear with 3 sockets honestly is not unreasonable. Like, I don't think that, except for these gloves, I spent, I have 15 divines to craft these boots. Pretty much the same amount of money for the helmet. Maybe a little bit more for the helmet, but you don't really spend much for really good pieces of gear. You really don't. And I could do that because I have currency, but I don't know, call me lazy, I guess. But yeah, if you really wanted to push this character further, you still could, and you could get even more damage reduction. But I achieved my goal. I tanked I tanked everything in the game, including the big fizz hits. So I'm pretty happy, you know, with how things turned out. And you know, hopefully they're not gonna nerf armor. Hopium. But that's pretty much it. That's the conclusion for the character, pretty much. You know, armor good, D4 bad. It is what it is. There's not much else to say. There's one video left, which is going to be like a big guide. We're going to, you know, as in tradition, we're going to like make a big guide with everything included. My explanation on support gems, items and passive tree and stuff like that. And after that, we're going to jump into the next character, which is going to be, oh boy, it's going to be an exciting one. So thank you very much for watching, guys. See you next time. The big guide is probably going to be in 2 days. So thank you very much. If you're gonna have any questions, for example, if you want to exactly replicate this character, you know, this changed character, what I was taking the Arbiter with, then let me know down in the comments. If you're gonna have any questions, I'm gonna try to answer. Take care, guys. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.